Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Rohr Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Lara Sturm.
Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. This is episode 41, and I'm one of your hosts, Lara Sturm.
And I'm Josh Rohr. Hello, hello.
Woohoo. So just a quick reminder, we stream live while we record each episode. We're recording a little earlier today, so I hope we didn't catch you off guard. But normally, join us every Monday at noon Eastern Time on Instagram Live at PL Ballads podcast to join in the conversation. Also check out Team Rohr on Instagram for all of your powerlifting coaching needs.
Yep. So the Georgia State meet is this weekend. It's
Yay.
April 24th and 25th at No Excuses CrossFit in Suwanee, Georgia. So this is my favorite meet of the year, primarily because of the team concept. So a lot of states have like different, like they have team awards, but it's like the men's raw open team, men's raw equipped team, women's masters one team, etc. Georgia does it a little bit different where there's only one team champion. And I think that's really cool. And really excited about it because here's the thing. It's kind of close to nationals this year. So we don't have like all of our lifters lifting. Some of them that are doing nationals have opted to not compete. But I think that applies to all the other teams competing too. So it's kind of neat this year because I think there's going to be a much higher priority on some of the lifters that may have felt like they got overshadowed in the past from other lifters. So I think they are the main event this year. So I think it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. And being a Georgia meet, it's pretty much Georgia lifters. So that's kind of fun. And I think this is going to be the first time I haven't attended a state meet.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through the schedule real quick, and then there's a few updates I'm gonna touch on. So the schedule for the meet is there's 2 sessions on Saturday and 1 session on Sunday. So Saturday, the 8 a.m. start time session is the men up to 83 kilos, and then the 2 p.m. start session is men 93 to super heavyweight. And then Sunday, the 8 a.m. session is all the women. So session 1 and 2 on Saturday, it's going to be 2 platforms, 2 flights each. And then Sunday, it's going to be 1 platform of 3 flights. So if you're planning to come out and watch, again, it's at No Excuses CrossFit in Suwanee. But a couple of the changes that have come up as of April 15th, local meets are allowed to follow local jurisdictions regarding face masks requirements. So if masks are not required by the local jurisdiction, lifters and spectators and stuff don't have to wear masks anymore, but they still can if they wish to. So here's where I'm a little bit. We have a couple lifters that have actually. The meet director basically said that they're going to follow the local guidelines, which means no restrictions at all. So my concern is, and some of the lifters on our team is that, they were signed up planning to do the meet where everybody's wearing a mask, and now people aren't required to. So it's a little bit of a change. I guess if you're planning to come, just be aware of that. But I don't feel real great about that, I guess, personally, just because, I know a lot of people still have not gotten their vaccine. I know a couple people on our team are, either immunocompromised themselves or have family members that are. And, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like it's a little early for that. Whereas I'm like, I don't know that I'd feel even comfortable going if everybody was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I'm just, that's how I feel about it, but that doesn't mean that's how everybody feels about it, apparently.
Yeah.
And this is Georgia.
So. Yeah, it's Georgia, but I mean, so when it was announced, the EC did put in there that the meet director has the authority to require mask usage still. So like, I like it because it gives the choice, I guess, to, essentially the meet director to run it how they want. I guess just my concern is, this meet specifically has already been full, and there was no more registrations, and everybody signed up under the pretense that there's going to be there's going to be mask requirements, and then it's changed. So I guess that's my concern. Like going forward, if you open registration saying, hey, it's going to be based on local restrictions, and people sign up knowing that, that's a little different. But again, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. You either choose to go or you don't. So,
Right.
that's, it is what it is. But
Can I ask how many lifters are lifting?
on our team,
Well, no, in the whole meet.
oh, there's 133 signed up as of last night when I looked.
So probably 60 women out of the 133-ish,
Yeah,
now?
it's something like that.
something like that.
I can actually pull it up and look real quick. It is so
It just seems like when anytime that there's a meet, you take that number of people that are lifting in the meet, then you can add all the spectators and volunteers and probably triple the number of lifters.
yeah, that's
easily.
usually about right. So it looks like
Kind of get
session,
an idea.
yeah, session 1 has 48 lifters, session 2 has 42 lifters, and then Sunday the women is 40 lifters. So
Okay.
yeah, it'll be, I'd say there's probably going to be, at any one time 120 people in the building. So
Right, which might be wearing masks, might not be, but that's
Yeah.
up to them.
yeah, all I know is I'll be wearing mine.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I would be too.
all right. Anyway, I
So
feel
how many
like
lifters do we have?
we have 14 lifters lifting.
Awesome. So
Yep.
do you think Team Rohr is in the running for the state championship?
I think we're always in the running.
Okay.
We've just always come up short in the past few years.
So close every year that we haven't won. It's been so close, like just a matter of a couple of points.
Yeah. And it's really hard to say this year because, again, some of our lifters that normally compete are not, because they're training for nationals. And, I know other lifters from other teams that are normally competing that are not also. So I really don't know. I mean, I'll say 100%. Yeah, we're in the running. Are we the favorite? Probably not. But
It's okay. We'll take those odds.
we're going to do our best and see what happens.
Can we give a shout out to those who are competing for Team Rohr this week?
We can. So on the women's side, we got, let me just pull up the roster. It'll be easier. Go down the list so I don't forget anybody. As I load my page here. All right. So lifting for Team Rohr. We got Ben Green.
Yay, Ben.
Benji. Stefan Nazaire, Ballard Childs, Nathan Booker, William Ruff, Chris Whiteson, Joe Faircloth, Matt Trahern, Cordell Estrada, Jenna Weinstein, Stacy Metcalf, Gretchen Patzios, Amy Pancake, and Cheryl Wolfinger.
Excellent.
All-star lineup. Oh yeah.
And how many meets in a row has Chris Whiteson done now? State meets?
Oh yeah, that's the fun trivia. So the most tenured lifter in all of Georgia, meaning most consecutive Georgia State meets running, is Chris Whiteson. He did his first one in 2011 and he's done every state meet since. Nobody else has done that. Even the infamous Dale McLaren missed one of those. And the funny part is Chris doesn't really he's not really what I would even call a power lifter. I mean, he trains with me and works out and stay in shape, but he doesn't do any other meets. He just does the state meet once every year. And we usually only start training for it like 6 weeks out. So it's just kind of one of those random things. Like, I don't know. It's a fun trivia.
I approve. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to move on to we're going to make some announcements about the IPF bylaw changes and some of those things. A lot of stuff's been going around social media, and this stuff was posted from the USA Powerlifting Instagram. So you can kind of check out the comments and stuff there. But I just wanted to basically read through it real quick, just so everybody is aware that listens to us, kind of what's going on there. But anyway, there were bylaw changes voted in on March 25th. And one of them that kind of stood out is bylaw 15.8, which basically says any athlete, coach, referee, or official who competes or participates in an international powerlifting or bench press event not organized, sanctioned, or approved by the IPF shall not be permitted to take part in any IPF international, regional, or national event for a period of 12 months from the date of that non-approved event. Now, this rule's been in place. The only change here is they added the language of regional or national event, which we still need to kind of get clarification on that. But my understanding of that means that applies to USA Powerlifting national events as well. So if you participate in a non-IPF event at the international level, then you can't compete at USA Powerlifting nationals or any IPF events for a year, which theoretically could make that essentially a 2-year from competing at the IPF level, because if the qualifying for worlds is at nationals and just if the timing works out, you can't do worlds 1 year and then you also can't qualify for worlds the following year, that could essentially become a 2-year ineligibility basically. So there's a lot of people asking questions about that, and I guess I don't actually know the full extent to how that applies, but that's my understanding just reading it, that it would essentially make people ineligible for nationals as well.
Yeah, which is now it also says regional or national event, so that does not include our regionals. So
I think that applies to like the NAPF, North American Powerlifting Federation, like regional championships. I believe, again, that's my understanding, because I would assume that if it were to go down to our regional level, that there would be a fourth category of like local. So,
right.
Just something to be aware of if you are planning to attend a international competition that's not under the IPF umbrella. Just be aware that rule has been changed by the IPF and could have implications for you.
So if you were to go to a international meet that's held by another federation and place in their world championships, you can't go do nationals next year.
Correct. So it's not even, so here's the other thing. It applies to any athlete, coach, referee, or official. So theoretically, if I go to a meet as a coach and coach, even though I'm not lifting, that would make me ineligible to compete at nationals for 12 months.
Right. So super important to be aware of that, so that doesn't happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is to dissuade federation hopping.
I've actually never liked this rule personally, because I think in a lot of places they can get away with it because there's really only one federation, and a lot of times the government subsidizes, the powerlifting. So to have a rule like this, kind of makes sense, I guess, to a degree. But in the US, we have like 1 million different powerlifting federations, and people want to lift where they want to lift. And if they want to compete at the IPF level, those very top tier lifters were not doing other meets because they wanted to be able to compete at worlds. And a lot of lifters would kind of do other federations and still compete at our nationals, but they weren't making a national team, right? They weren't that top tier. Well, now that extends down to the entire lifting at nationals period. So now that starts affecting a heck of a lot more people.
That's true.
And I think, me personally, that seems like a big overreach, because, the odds of those lifters, most of those lifters might not be going to international competition anyway, but now it's dictating like how USA Powerlifting handles that, I guess.
Right. So if you're a, standard lifter and you're just lifting in a different federation, now you can't even go to nationals.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure I like that, because
Yeah.
really, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
this is still a sport.
Yeah. And I guess,
and
part of the idea behind the rule is to keep people from, lifting against people that are potentially suspended or using drugs, I guess. Is kind of a fraction of the rationale behind it, but getting to our next point, I think that's starting to go out the window. So one of the next update we'll talk about, this was also posted from the USA Powerlifting Instagram, but starting in 2021, which is now, the IPF and WADA mandate that all nations be WADA compliant at every level. So basically what that means for USA Powerlifting is it has to be third-party testing, which means this mandate means that no national federation can participate in any aspect of testing, including therapeutic use exemptions, sample collection, results management, and test planning. So like right now at the local level and even national level, like our referees administer the drug test. Well, this is saying that can no longer happen. So, USA Powerlifting currently is still doing our regular drug testing, but this is something that was passed recently and is being discussed how we're going to proceed. But basically, the testing estimates for full compliance with third-party testing are estimated at approximately $2,000 per test. And based on our current percentage of test failures, which includes collection of samples, analysis cost, processing of adverse analytical findings, aka the positive tests, prospective or retrospective TUEs, doping fines, and administrative costs for positives. Basically, the other part of this is the independent testing. The federations have no input on who is tested. So that includes like records, no notification of existence of TUEs, and no results management. Basically, that means the organization's in the dark as to who gets tested. So like if somebody breaks an open American record, like our policy now is they automatically get tested, but we have no say in that anymore if we comply with these new requirements, right? So further on that, I know it's a mess. Further on that, like the testing cost will increase as much as 20%, which is, or I'm sorry, not 20%, 20 times.
Yeah,
It'll increase as much as 20 times what it is now, limiting the number of tests that are possible. So basically testing at the local level won't be possible anymore if we comply with this WADA and IPF mandate. Testing will decrease from 10% as a minimum to approximately 2,500 tests annually to approximately 200 tests per year across all 400 competitions. 200 tests per year. That's nothing.
Wow. That's, I'm kind of, I gotta say, I'm disgusted with this rule.
Yeah. But here's the weird part, like being WADA compliant, basically mean, if we go back up to what that means, being WADA compliant at every level. So
that's
following all these
procedures.
Meets. Well, yeah, that's local meets, but you can be WADA compliant by doing 0 drug tests. So
yay. Why are we calling ourselves a drug-free federation then?
Well, because USA Powerlifting is, IPF is, gotta be careful what I say, is they're trying
compliant.
So WADA compliant to me is not what I thought it was, based on this stuff coming out. Yeah. Like everybody talks about WADA compliance as the gold standard, but basically that just means that it's completely, there's some factors it's completely independent, like the organization doesn't have any input, things like that. But at the end of the day, if you're drug testing like a small fraction of what you could, like, how is that better? And to me, it goes back to this. If you want less positives, you can decrease the number of positive tests by decreasing the number of drug tests you administer. Right? It doesn't mean there's less people doping. It just means you're catching less people. And I think that's to me, that's what seems like is the goal of WADA and IPF is to just decrease the number of tests.
But then the problem gets to be if you're not testing people at that local level and they get up to that higher level and then they get popped, then the whole federation gets in trouble.
Yeah. And guess who gets paid fines for that?
Right. Oh, I don't like this whole thing at
Yeah,
all.
I don't
And
either.
for a meat director, you can't even test. And then you're not testing at a local level. You're there. And I know any drug testing is not perfect. There's going to be people that are doping that aren't caught. But it seems like what we're doing, or what we have been doing up until now at a local level, is doing the testing through, I can't remember who it's from.
Quest.
Yeah, right. And sending off, it's not WADA compliant, but it's testing.
Well, I
for
believe
drug use and
they're a
steroids.
WADA compliant lab. I believe they are a WADA accredited lab, I think, but we're only doing we're not testing the full WADA panel for every single thing,
Right.
but we're catching a lot of people taking, testosterone or something like that. And we're catching a lot of people cheating, and to take all of that out is basically just opening the floodgates.
Oh yeah. It's just saying, hey, come compete and do whatever you want.
Yeah. So officially as of today, like we are still doing our drug testing as normal.
Good.
But we are also being told we're not allowed to be doing that. So something's got to give, and I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah. And I can say this without any, I have not had, I'm not a active USAPL member right now because I had an injury, and right now I'm not even reffing. So whatever, I can say whatever I want. This is wrong. This is not cool. This is something that I do not believe the IPF should be doing. And it just is going to make the sport of powerlifting have more doping associated.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is to try to get into the Olympics, being WADA compliance, a requirement to get into the Olympics. Well,
and then look what happened at the Olympics. I mean, that's how Russia got in the,
yeah,
and then that's been.
Yeah. There
Boy.
appears to be
It's not worth it. If this is what it takes us to get into the Olympics, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And, that's the big debate kind of going around the internet right now is basically the two options appear to be, does USA Powerlifting leave the IPF and keep our core principles of drug testing at every level? Or do we basically throw those away and stay with the IPF and quit doing our drug testing and essentially, go against our founding principles?
Right. And then the problem is, if we're not part of the IPF, then none of our athletes can go to Worlds.
They can't go to IPF Worlds, correct?
Right. Can't go to IPF Worlds. And that sucks. Because then we really can't compete against the best across the world.
Yeah.
And boy, this is just.
Yeah, it's really an unfortunate position to be in. And it's becoming more clear that outside of USA Powerlifting, the drug free doesn't seem to be that high of a priority.
Right.
And that's kind of sad.
There is an excellent movie on this, and I'm trying right now to remember. Yes, Icarus.
Icarus, yeah.
If anyone listening to this has not watched that movie, watch that movie. It is staggering, the stuff that's been happening and the whole Russia scandal and why they got popped and tossed out of the Olympics, and some of the stuff that they had done in the past, and just kind of what can be still done, really.
Yeah.
It's astounding. Wow. Yeah, I don't like this rule, but I guess we can move on.
Yeah, man, we've got some real downers we started out with here. Let's move on to some music.
Yay,
I'm
music.
not gonna go through the rest of the stuff I was going to talk about on that. I mean, but basically, The cost is outrageous, way less drug testing. Let's move on to music.
Yes.
All
And
right.
this is the Power Ballads section.
Yeah.
Power Ballads.
So I believe we did our listener number 3 albums last week, and I figured you and I will do our number 3 albums this week. So my number 3 album for
Oh, wait, where's my list?
my number 3 80s album. You lost your list for real?
I'm like, no, I'll figure it out by the time you get there.
Okay. So my number 3 is Def Leppard's Hysteria album. And I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that one.
I'm one of them.
You're one of them. I know. You told me you had at least one you disagreed with, and I assumed it was this one. You have 2. Okay. Well, great. The reason I put this as number 3 is, well, let me go down the list of like their hit songs that are on this. I got 5 of them listed. Animal, Love Bites, which falls into that power ballad category to me. Pour Some Sugar on Me, which everybody knows that one. Armageddon It. Yeah, stripper song. Armageddon It and Hysteria. So there's obviously more songs than that, but these are the ones that really, really are popular songs. And I guess I'm not like a huge Def Leppard fan, but I really, really love those 5 songs. And they're all on the same album. So I had to throw that in there. I could have potentially put that, and maybe, I mean, that potentially could have been like number 4 or 5 versus number 3, but I really like those songs. So that kind of is why it got put there.
My thinking is that Power Mania is just a better album. I am a Def Leppard fan up to a point. We did go to the last concerts that they had up at the Ameris Amphitheater in Alpharetta. We missed concerts.
So I will say this: they are terrible in concert.
They're just okay in concert. Yeah.
No, they're terrible.
Yeah.
I saw them in concert.
They weren't always. I saw them in concert in the Pyromania tour back when they were playing with Billy Squier back in the 80s.
Billy Squier, stroke me.
Yeah. So I remember seeing them in the Pyromania tour, and that was amazing. That was a great concert. I was also probably pretty high. I don't really know. It was the 80s. Everybody was. But yeah, after that, we've seen them in concert, and it's the same exact concert every time. Like set changes, what they say, the jokes they crack up. It's like, change your set list a little bit, have a little variety, be a little bit better in concert.
Be better.
Yeah, be better. Change it up. So would you like to hear my number 3?
I would.
All right. So my number 3, man, it was such a toss-up between my top 3. So hard to order these. But I'm going to go with The Blizzard of Oz from Ozzy Osbourne. Great album. This album was, I believe, Ozzy's first solo out of Black Sabbath. And he just packed a wallop in that album. It's just an amazing album. Just kind of a departure from kind of the grungier, bluesier sounds from his songs in Black Sabbath. But, I Don't Know and Crazy Train being on one album in 1980.
You threw me for a loop on that one, because you know what? Ozzy Osbourne, for whatever reason, was not even on my radar when I was thinking about albums. But you're right. That Blizzard of Oz is a great album.
Oh, man.
And I Don't Know is probably one of my favorite Ozzy songs. Crazy Train is right up there, but I Don't Know is less known, I think. But I think I actually like that one better.
Yeah. And
but I don't know.
That was good. That's good. That was funny. Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley, No Bone Movies, also great songs. It's just a great album. There's a description of it in Apple Music that if you have an Apple iPhone, which I know you don't, Josh, the description of it, which I don't have at my fingertips right now, which is so wrong now that I've referenced it, is just so dead on. It was like I don't know, when anybody ever writes about music, it's just funny to hear writing about music, but this was like melodic and angst ridden or something, which was, pretty dead on. Great album.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I can't argue against that. I think that's a great album.
There you go. I win.
Yeah, so far you might be winning.
Right,
you know what, that rat album, your number 5, was that one threw me for a loop too. Like it wasn't even on my radar, and I'm like, ooh, that's a great one. Like I you know what, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Well, I know you didn't really approve of my number 4 because it was a compilation type of thing.
Yeah,
soundtrack.
That is true.
And we can also talk about other great soundtracks from the 80s.
We could do that. Could be our genre. That could be our next segment. I have a whole list of those. Maybe that's why I'm mad, because I'm like, that's an idea like for later, and I was excluding those purposely, but you didn't.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
I didn't tell you that.
Yeah,
that was going to be a surprise.
Boy. Well, we'll get there at some point, because soundtracks were such a part of the 80s. Like, I don't know how many movies were in the 80s where the music was just about as important as the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yep, I agree.
So let's move on to the powerlifting situation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. You and your training partner are competing at nationals in the same weight class. Neither of you have coaches. Facepalm right there. Neither of you have coaches, and you don't really know anyone. You're in 8th place, so you have no realistic shot at the podium, and your training partner's in 2nd. Ooh. After your 2nd deadlift, it's easy, and you turn in your PR 3rd attempt. But just then, your training partner asks you to watch the scoreboard for any changes so that they can focus on their pull for 1st. The last 3 lifters of the flight are the first place lifter, then you, then your training partner. Ooh, what do you do?
My first thought here is that's a big ask, because that's essentially asking me to take all my focus off of what I'm about to do and pay attention to the other lifter. The other implication here that, is sort of implied, but if the first place lifter makes a change and goes up and potentially goes after me, well, now I'm up, and then I have to, worry about doing my lift and then immediately hurry up and getting back to look at the scoreboard. So I think if I take on that task of watching the scoreboard, then I am mentally going to be off my game. And I think that's a little bit unfair for somebody to ask somebody else to do, especially when the lifting order is like that. Now, if I'm the first lifter in the flight and, I'm going to have like 3 or 4 lifters between where I really need to pay attention, that's different, because I can kind of put all of my eggs in my basket of focusing on my own lift and then shift gears. But being this close like that, there's no way I can be 100% committed to my 3rd pull while I'm worrying about, taking care of my buddy.
Right. And if you're sitting there trying to work math under duress is hard in the first place. Yeah. Having had to be in that situation where you're sitting there, like, trying to know, and you're worried about your own 3rd attempt lift. Yeah. I would probably have to say, no, dude, I can't do that right now. I'm lifting. You needed a coach. You should have brought one. Something like that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the hard part though, because it's your buddy that you train with.
Right.
It's your training partner. I'm trying to put myself in that position too. Like if I'm potentially wasn't expecting to be in the running to win, maybe, and find yourself in that position and you don't have anybody to help you. Well, now it's like, this could be my one and only shot to win nationals. Like, help me out, man. So I can see the desire to ask, but I just think that's a big ask. And I don't know that I could sacrifice my own 3rd PR attempt, third attempt deadlift, which would be a PR, to help my buddy in that situation. Because at the end of the day, I paid my dues to be there to compete too.
Right. I would say, hey, you need to pay attention to it yourself, since we're both here without coaches and I'm about to pull a PR.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
that's
just a big ask. You're right.
it's a big ask, but using that same logic, if your buddy is paying attention to the scoreboard and trying to do all the changes, they're also not able to fully focus on just going out and lifting either. But at the end of the day, like that's on them for not bringing somebody with them.
Right. So the moral of the story is have a coach. You're at nationals.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So let's move on to the new lifter tip.
All right. So basically plan out your meet day meals and nutrition. Practice that plan ahead of time. You should not be eating new things for the first time at the meet because you don't know how it will affect your stomach or energy levels.
So true.
I see a lot of people like after they weigh in, they just like eat garbage because they're like, oh, I've been cutting weight for so long. I'm going to eat all these candies and, cinnamon bun and all these things. And yeah, that might be the desire to do that, but like you forget all of that leading up to it was so that you could compete well. So don't screw it up just because you want to eat. Wait till after the meet, then you can eat and be as miserable as you want.
Be as happy as you want, you mean? Because that's cinnamon bun would make me happy, and now I'm really hungry. So Josh, what's some of your favorite meet day meals?
Oh, I'm gonna let, I guess, the secret out here. So basically what I do for my nutrition on meet day, specifically if I'm cutting weight, as soon as I weigh in, I'll do like a hard-boiled egg and just a tiny bit of oatmeal with some Pedialyte. And everything I eat is for it on meet day is for performance. It has nothing to do with what it tastes like. So you kind of give a cringed face when the combination of Pedialyte, hard-boiled egg, and oatmeal. Yeah. And then what I like to do is I like honey sandwiches because they are kind of like a high glycemic, quick blood sugar boost, I guess. So I'll start eating a honey sandwich during my warm-ups and kind of finish it during my last warm-up. So right as I'm hitting the platform, my blood sugar is kind of elevated a little bit. And it kind of gives me that little bit of extra energy through the actual attempts. But then you can pretty much expect a crash, after you kind of get done with your squats. So as you're starting to warm up for bench, you kind of crash a little bit. So like a snack on raisins kind of right after, just to kind of stabilize a little bit. And then I'll just repeat that process each time. So I'll do another honey sandwich as I'm warming up for bench, and a third honey sandwich as I'm warming up for deadlift. 3 honey sandwiches. Yep. I mean, if you can't eat that much, like, then I'll do like a half a honey sandwich each time. But that's the thing that I found works really well for me. And everybody's going to be a little bit different, but that combination and timing has really worked well for me in terms of, not feeling sluggish or tired and just having everything kind of just right. Right. Now I'm a big proponent of oatmeal in the morning because I feel like it kind of, I don't know, has enough carbs in it that gets me going. And you kind of got me into the honey sandwiches, although mine are always peanut butter and honey. Yeah. It used to be peanut butter and jelly, but then when I saw your peanut butter and honey, I was like, ooh, that sounds good. Yeah. And then my other thing that I do before deadlifts is I have always liked chocolate covered espresso beans because I like a little extra caffeine right before deadlifts because I need to get hyped back up. And I usually have my hands shaking by the time I am ready to deadlift just from all the caffeine and sugar. Yeah. I usually just go straight to the Red Bull for deadlift, but the espresso beans are cool too. Yeah. I mean, I'm an espresso beef fan. So yeah. Sometimes they're hard to find, especially if you're in a different country and you're like, I'm looking for chocolate covered espresso beans. Bring them. Bring them. The moral of the story. Yep. Because they're not going to be there. Yep. So cool. I agree. Couple things I forgot to mention earlier. So if you are attending the Georgia State meet this weekend, or if you're attending nationals in Daytona, Team Rohr is going to have a booth there at both of those events. Awesome. So stop by the booth. We're going to have a couple raffles going on. You have to get the raffle code at the booth to enter. I'll give more details as it gets closer, but definitely plan on swinging by the booth each day of the meet because there will be different raffles going on. But come check us out, get some information about our coaching services, buy some Team Rohr swag. We have a whole bunch of it. 90% of it is not on our website. So it's only right now available at the meets. So
I have 2 of my favorite t-shirts from the Team Rohr booth. I like big squats and I cannot lie.
that's a good one.
And the other one I won't discuss because Josh hates it.
You can talk about it. It's fine.
I can't remember what it says on the back. It says Team Rohr, chains and cages are nothing new to us.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. 50 Shades of Rohr.
50 Shades of Rohr. Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody thought it was a good idea to get those made without my approval.
Yes. And the big thing is, like, you have to buy one so you can wear it near Josh so you can see him turn bright red. It's great.
I've actually considered just like, here's the thing though, I got a freaking box of them. What am I going to do with them? I can throw them away, but I bought them. So yeah, I got to sell them, but yeah, I don't know, whatever.
I got to sell them, but I don't want to sell them because people are going to wear them.
It is like
make me embarrassed.
It is like a big conundrum.
I think everyone listening should buy one of these shirts so that Josh can, eat and stuff, but also get really embarrassed because there's nothing really better than embarrassing Josh Rohr.
Yeah. I don't know why it embarrasses me so much, but it really does. Like, I don't know.
Because you're crude.
Were you part? Yeah. Were you part of that getting those made, or was that?
I voted on it. And I think maybe you didn't realize what was in there for the running, but I definitely voted, yes, this is a shirt that needs to be made.
So I don't think that I'm pretty sure I was not part of that process because when all the boxes showed up, so we ordered all these like for one of the big meets we were running, and basically they showed up, and I think old Hopi Rohr is the one that was the one behind all of that.
It was your lovely wife that was behind it, and she knew that you would definitely not vote on that one, but yet it might be a big seller. So she was kind of protecting you from yourself in a way.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, good on you, Hope.
All right. On that note, I'm done with this conversation. Don't forget to follow us. Oh, man, I'm flustered now.
He's turning red right now.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast and shoot us an email if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or topics for discussion at plballadspodcast@gmail.com.
And if you're listening to this podcast, give us a like because ratings matter.
That's true.
It gets us higher up. So make sure you make sure you subscribe.
Subscribe, and can you leave a review? Is that a thing?
I believe you can. It's in certain.
Did I make that up?
I know you can like it, and I know you can subscribe, and you should do both. And I think on some platforms you can review it as well. So definitely say Josh Rohr is really fun to listen to. And you love our antics.
Yes.
And good information.
That
too.
Yeah. So basically, anybody out there with low moral standards that feels like lying about listening to Josh Rohr.
Yes, exactly. And until then, next week.
We'll see you guys next time. Later.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.